This is coverage you can count on. WGAL News 8 at 5 starts now.
Less than a week now until Election Day, and the major presidential campaigns continue pushing hard for Pennsylvania votes. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Roach. Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris is holding a rally today right now at the Farm Show Complex in Harrisburg, and News 8 has live team coverage. Our team coverage starts now with News 8's Lori Burkholder at the Farm Show Complex.
Yeah, Brian, that rally just wrapping up. All these people now walking by me here. As you mentioned, only 6 days to go till voters head to the polls. So we are in crunch time, and so much focus is on these battleground states, including Pennsylvania, where the vice president just got done speaking here tonight. Again, the focus on these battleground states. Let's go to Tom Lehman, who is inside the expo hall with more on what happened in there in her speech, what she had to say to voters. Tom?
Yeah, well, Lori, we are inside of the expo hall right now. As you can see, Kamala Harris is moving about the area, talking to some of the people who were rallying here for her today. Obviously, a lot of attention on the Keystone State because it is an important battleground state in the United States in terms of trying to win the presidency. Harris emphasizing that a lot during her speech. She also tried to say that she's more of a coalition builder, somebody who is going to be able to try and get people who may have disagreements about certain things to find a way to get to a common good. She talked a lot about access to abortion as well as some of the other issues that have really been central to this campaign. She also at one point touted her own experience as a prosecutor during the speech.
For decades, as a prosecutor and the top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against the big banks that were ripping off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings.
Back here at the Expo Center, I can tell you that there were a few disruptions during this speech, including, at least in one occasion, a pro-Gaza protester disrupting what was happening inside of the arena for a time. I will also note that at one point Harris acknowledged the disruption, but she said that while everybody has a right to be heard, she was talking now. We'll have more coverage of the speech and the rally coming up in just a little bit, but for now, at the Farm Show Complex, Tom Lehman, News 8.
All right, Tom, thank you. We did see some of those, as you described them as disruptors, did leave the expo hall. I just want to have Ian pan off of me to show you the crowd that was in there at this Get Out the Vote rally. A lot of people now funneling out. The doors opened early today at 12:30, and you can see it was pretty much a packed house. A lot of these people coming to hear her speak, talking about key issues, and they traveled from all over. Our team coverage continues with Sarah Metz, who's outside this giant expo hall with more on that. Sarah?
That's right, Lori. Yeah, people traveled from Philadelphia, Johnstown, Altoona, and all over the Susquehanna Valley to show up to Harris's first rally here in the Susquehanna Valley. Now, she did wrap up, but the excitement was super high before people went in. This is the Vice President's first Susquehanna Valley visit this election. Hi. Her supporters also getting their first out of it.
You know, actually, this is my first mega rally.
Girl power, you go girl. Girl power, you go girl, and that.
For Rosie, Maeve, and Ellie from Philadelphia, it's all about female empowerment.
We want a female president. We're going to be breathing like the same air as her. We're going to be in the same room.
And after waiting in the long lines, Colin Life was also pretty excited to get inside. How's it been so far?
So far, I've got sunburn on the back of my neck, but otherwise it was good.
His mom more anxious about hearing what Harris will say.
I also think it's really important to talk about equality and diversity. He's grown up in a much different world than I did, but I love the diversity, I love the inclusion, and that's something that I really want him to learn as well.
Her campaign says today is essentially her closing arguments to the Harrisburg area and also its surrounding area, so all of Susquehanna Valley. Lori, back to you.
All right, Sarah, thank you. And as a lot of these people keep walking past us, you can tell they're all waving. A very nice crowd here actually tonight, but it just shows you how important Pennsylvania is in this election with those 19 electoral votes up for grabs. Again, the battleground states are going to be the key focus of these campaigns. Earlier, Harris was in Raleigh, North Carolina, another battleground state. From here, she's now headed to Madison, Wisconsin, and tomorrow and Friday, some more battleground states. In fact, tomorrow she's going to be with Jennifer Lopez. So a lot going on here in Harrisburg. We'll have more team coverage for you coming up on News 8 at 6. Brian?
All right, Lori, thank you. Donald Trump had a rally in Allentown last night. The former president brought up an incident regarding voter registration forms in Lancaster County.
If you have a mail-in ballot, get that damn ballot in, please, immediately, because they've already started cheating in Lancaster. They've cheated. We caught them with 2,600 votes. No, we caught them cold.
And during his rally in Allentown, Trump also brought up a recent comment made at one of his rallies by a comedian Trump said he didn't know personally.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Then during an interview yesterday with Voto Latino, President Biden weighed in on those comments, implying Trump supporters were garbage.
I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Trump jumped on that comment after learning about it in the middle of his Allentown appearance.
That's terrible. Remember Hillary? She said deplorable. Oh, that didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know. You have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said.
Later, President Biden went onto social media to clarify his comment, writing, "I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say." Trump is campaigning in North Carolina today, where he blasted descriptions of his supporters and noted how the region is still recovering from hurricanes, saying some families are still living in tents. The Senate race from Pennsylvania getting national attention, and it may help decide which party controls the Senate. News 8's Barbara Barr is here with that.
Well, Brian, polls have shown a tight race between Democratic incumbent Senator Bob Casey and Republican challenger Dave McCormick. Although most polls show Casey running a bit ahead of Vice President Kamala Harris in the state, the winner could decide the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. Casey was in Lancaster this afternoon at TELUS 360 with former Republican Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, Ronald Castile, who endorsed Casey, while Dave McCormick campaigned with former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and Governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. They were in Pennsburg, Montgomery County, about 50 miles south of Allentown.
He's a business guy. He knows what it means to balance a budget and save dollars.
It's common sense to secure our border, stop that flow of illegal immigrants. Fentanyl, right? 4,000 people died last year in Pennsylvania from fentanyl.
I think in the end, both races are going to be close, and we got to keep working because there's so much at stake. And as I said earlier, in this race, it's clear of what the difference is. I'm going to be on the side of folks that are going to work every day and trying to make ends meet.
Both candidates crisscrossing the state in what has been a contentious and very expensive race. The candidates have clashed on the border, inflation, and dealings with China. Barbara Barr, News 8.